musician. Play some music. Gonna play some poker. I've been out digging a grave. This will have a shovel. Should have my 6-shooter, but this stupid saloon makes me leave it at the door. Makes me angry. And these two degenerates at the table, I ain't happy. I'm gonna deal up. Look at you already dropping your shit. Alright. The last game I played didn't turn out too well. Alright. That's right. Alright. Let's see what I got. Set as your draw. I mean, set as your put in your money. I said put in your money.
Quit telling me what to do. What you staring at? You're uglier than the pig I kicked in the face this morning.
What did you say to me?
You deaf and ugly?
What did you say to me? Yeah! That's right. I thought so. I'm gonna have to go up and dig another grave. Made me throw my carrot. It's the only thing I got anymore since I quit smoking cigars. Look at that. Who wrote my carrot? Alrighty. I guess I'll teach some TOK. Alright, I need to shovel. You two watch it. Sorry. We can play some more music for now. Alright. Maybe I should have played some music and I'll do some teaching instead. Alright. Alright, guys. You see that? That is stuff for the do's and don'ts of the TOK essay. That's right. Do's and don'ts of the TOK essay. You see that? It says, and the PowerPoint images have nothing to do with the topic. It's space. You know what that makes me? That's right. That makes me a space cowboy. Space cowboy. All right. Anyway, I'm going to do this one fairly briefly. This is really a do's and don'ts. I don't really know. A do's and don'ts of TOK essay. All right. I'll put my carrot over there. Hurts. All right. So, whoops, I have to freeze it. Unfreeze it. There we go. Okay, you guys. So, here's the basics. Now, how have I come up with this list? I've come up with this list by grading these things internationally for, I just finished another session, a November session, for 17 years. I've been grading these for 17 years. I've graded up to 2,600 and usually no less than about 400 or 500 every year. This year I have graded about 700. So now, and these are some of the recurring problems that I have seen. I've been doing this through 4 different sort of versions of the curriculum. Anyway, so these are the things which I see which are recurring problems and recurring good techniques. And so I made it in a list. I have this in a short little thing I should actually put out. But so I'm just going to kind of go through this fairly briefly. Let me check something here. Okay. Do not ever change any aspect of the topic. Right, there's 6 topics. We've talked about these topics already a little bit. But don't ever change any aspect of the topic. You would be amazed at the amount of people that actually change the topic. They actually change words in it. They rewrite it. By the end of the introduction, they rewrite the topic and they put in different words and they're talking about something different. And I've used this example before, but that is very much akin to doing this. If your essay question in history asks you to talk about the causes of the Cold War and you say, no, I want to talk about the outcomes of the Cold War, well, whatever. It's irrelevant. Yes, it is. The topic is what it is, and being on that group that writes these topics, I know how painstaking that is to do that, to get the topics how they're supposed to be. Just leave them alone. Write them like that, okay? Do all of what the topic asks. If it asks you to talk about 2 A-OK, talk about 2 A-OK. Some topics are more complex than others. Some of them have various pieces to them. You have to do everything that the topic asks you to do. Do it all. Now, I will help you with that, of course. But do not recreate the knowledge question. Now, a lot of people will do this. They'll go through their introduction, they'll unpack the terms, they'll do that kind of stuff, and then they make a new knowledge question. Like, for instance, let's say the one that says, the question that we have this year that says every knowledge claim involves an element of trust, discussing 2 A-OK. Okay? Maybe they would say, to what extent can you, maybe their knowledge question at the end would be something like, how certain can you be in knowledge? All right? And then, instead of talking about everything has an element of trust, they talk about how certain you can be in knowledge. It's not the same thing. And you end up with an irrelevant paper. And this happens all the time. It really, really does. All the time. It's one of the biggest problems that people do. So you don't need a knowledge question in your introduction. You don't have to have one. Okay? Just talk about the topic. All right. So, okay, more basics. Give a specific answer to the question, thesis of sort in the introduction. This is part of your introduction. Answer the question. Answer it. One of the questions this year is statistics conceal more than they reveal. Discuss this, blah, blah, blah. Yes, answer the question. Well, that isn't really a question. Or what are some of the other ones? Avoiding bias is a commendable goal, but this fails to realize the positive role that bias can play in the creation of knowledge. It says something like that. We're going to talk about these more specifically. And to what extent you agree or something. Answer the question. It can actually be your very first sentence. I disagree with the claim because the claim is an absolute. Or I agree partially with the claim. I agree to a certain extent. I agree with the claim in the area of knowledge of math, while I disagree with the claim, like the one about certainty. Every claim involves an element of trust. Maybe you would say something like this. I agree with the claim in the area of knowledge of history, but I disagree with the claim in the area of knowledge of math. You can start it that way, but what you're doing here is you're trying to get your examiner who reads your paper, trying to show your examiner that you understand exactly what you are saying, and you are relevant, and you are going to talk about the topic. It's a good way to do it. You don't have to use it first. You don't have to do that first. A lot of people do it first. We don't have to, but it needs to be in your introduction. It's your thesis, basically. You need to have that answer. Avoid rhetorical questions. Wow. Ugh. Yes. You know what? It's going to happen if you have a rhetorical question. That's right. That's right. It ain't going to be pretty. Here's the thing. Why do you have rhetorical questions? That was a rhetorical question. Well, if the camera could answer, I'd listen. But why do you have rhetorical questions? Well, you have rhetorical questions to make people think. That's what you're doing. It's a rhetorical question. Get them to think. Are you trying to get your examiner to think? No, you're not. You're trying to tell your examiner that you know what's going on. You're writing an essay about the topic. You're not trying to be old witty. A rhetorical question doesn't say anything. They're stupid. Do not put rhetorical questions in your essay. Simple and straightforward as that. I see them all the time. This year I saw some that had like 50, maybe not 50, but 30 rhetorical questions throughout the paper. Throughout this November, just a week ago or something. Throughout the paper, 30 rhetorical questions. I mean, so what are you doing? This is stupid. And you got a low grade, or she, I don't know who it was, but it was a bad paper. Now, this one. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Unclear thought is unclear writing. In Swedish, dunkeltänkt dunkelskrivet. It was August Strindberg that wrote that. He's a playwright. But But anyway, so unclear thought is unclear writing. If you do not have things clear in your head, you will not have them clear on the paper. There is no way to take unclear thoughts in your head and transfer them magically into clarity on the paper. Before you know what to write, don't write. Think about it more. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? What do you want to say? You have to know that before you start writing. Now, it doesn't mean that every single sentence is going to be wordsmithed and perfect once it finally hits the paper. That is not what it means at all. No, it doesn't. But it means you have to have a general direction. And you would be surprised how many times, I mean, I'm talking throughout the years that I've supervised these essays for my students, you would be surprised. I'm talking in the hundreds, literally, in the hundreds of times this has happened. You'd be surprised how many times I've asked a student, what is it you're trying to say there? Because it doesn't make any sense. What are you trying to say there? And they're like, I don't know, really. Well, then how am I going to know? And if you don't know, you're the one who wrote it, and you don't know what you're trying to say, really. And how am I going to know? And why is it there in the first place? Get it clear in your head. Figure it out. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. What do you want to say? What do you think about the topic? Do you agree with it? When do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? When do you disagree with it? Give examples when you disagree, agree and disagree. That's why I'm having you guys, at least my class, do that thing that I am having you do right now with the first question, to get those things clear in your head. Okay. This is the solar system. Means I'm a space cowboy. That's right. Okay. Relevance is key. See what I did there? I put something up there which was not relevant. Anyway, always be relevant. Make sure everything you write is making a point. A relevant point in regards to the topic. If you cannot say what the point the topic is making, neither could your examiner. The point needs revision or removal. It's kind of what I was talking about now. But once again, so many times I've seen students of mine, in their draft or drafts, say like, I really don't know I don't know. What's the point? Why? How is this related to the title? You have to make the connection between what you're saying and how it's related to the title. You cannot leave it fuzzy. You cannot just assume. Assume that your examiner is going to put the pieces together. And even if they can, and often you can't. There's many times I read a paper and I'm seriously like, what are you talking about? Not on your papers, I'm a little nicer. But seriously, what are you talking about? And I don't know. And so the point with this is if it's not clearly making a point, if it's not clearly tied to the title, it's not making a point, and it's a poor analysis. At best, you'll get sort of mediocre grade, a descriptive analysis, because it just says something and doesn't really tie in very well. And so that is really, really important. I mean, you will work on these papers, and you will see as the progress happens and the process continues, you'll get more and more relevant, and it will get better. And nobody expects you to have a perfect first draft. But that's a really important point. A maxime, quality is always better than quantity in regards to the inclusion of AOK and ways of knowing. Include what the topic asks for and other things only if they're specifically relevant to the discussion. Do not throw things in your paper like using reason, using emotion. I looked at this painting. No, please. That name dropping of emotion and reason and ways of knowing and tossing them into your paper does nothing at all. Just talk about the topic, answer the topic, use relevant examples. And if emotion, for instance, is relevant for your discussion, if it's relevant for your example, if emotion is a way of knowing which interferes with knowledge construction or helps with knowledge construction, fine, absolutely talk about it. Please do, yes, do, absolutely, but don't just toss things in there. Like using intuition, Einstein, what does that even mean? And so that's the kind of thing. So it's a very, very good one. Okay, quality, don't toss a bunch of stuff in. May the force be with you. Look at this. Yes. Yeah. Did you see that? I'm going to show you guys that again. That was pretty impressive. Look at that. All right, analysis. What about the analysis? Make your analysis sound. It has to make logical sense. You can't just skip steps. It has to make sense. Support the claims. Do not be descriptive. Give examples if you need to. Analyze. Don't just say history and knowledge knowledge and history can never be. You always have to have trust in knowledge and history because you trust in authority. Okay? That is not incorrect, but that is not convincing. That's a claim, a descriptive claim. There's no analysis there. I could just as well say you don't need trust in knowledge and authority or knowledge and history because we have authority. I could just as well say that, and analytically they're both equally the same. You have to support your arguments. Include a counter and or other approaches from different perspectives. Sometimes questions will have a counter in them, a pure counterclaim. Like the one with the element of trust. You can argue, yes, you need an element of trust, and you can argue, no, in certain instances you don't need an element of trust. That's a clear counterclaim, okay? It's a claim, and it's a counterclaim. Now, there was a question in the November questions this year, which said, when disagreements need resolution, it is important to offer equal attention to both sides, something like that. When is this good advice? Now the question is asking when is it good advice? Now people mistakenly put in there when it's not good advice, or when, yeah, something like that. But anyway, so if you see a question like when is this good advice, when is this good advice? It's asking for, that wasn't really the question. I'm kind of messing up right now and I don't want to dig it out of here. But what I mean by that one is if you were to get a question like that, when is it good advice? Well, it's asking for different scenarios in which it's good advice. It's not saying when isn't it a good advice. It's not a pure counterclaim. It's really looking at things from different perspectives. If we have, there's topics like that now. And I will deal with those when I do unpacking the title. But I'm just saying that you need either counterclaims if it's a question that has counterclaims, or you need other perspectives if it's not a clear counterclaim question. They make them that way sometimes. Okay? Breadth. Make a real effort to emphasize the interconnectedness of the areas of knowledge and the ways of knowing in the discussion. You want to talk about things. Now there is not you have to have 2 of these and 3 of these. There's like 2 AOK and 3 ways of knowing. There is no rule like that. The grading criteria are not like that. But they do ask, have you examined areas of knowledge and or ways of knowing to a large extent, to a great extent, well done, or not at all type thing. And so you need to include these things, but once again, make sure it's a relevant inclusion. Don't just toss it in there. No, none of this tossing things in. Okay, so if it's when it comes into your discussion, obviously if you're going to have 2 areas of knowledge and the question is saying discuss 2 areas of knowledge, well, you need to discuss 2 areas of knowledge. I mean, my goodness, if you don't do that, you're not going to do well at all. But very often the ways of knowing, or always the ways of knowing, help create the knowledge. And you want to talk about that interconnectedness of how emotion works here and how reason works here. And I can't give you exactly how to do it because each question is different, but it needs to be in your mind, and it needs to be kind of a idea that you try to work into the paper. But like I said, when we start working on the paper, you'll see how that can be done, and I'll give you suggestions. And when I do unpacking the titles, which I'm going to start today, okay, avoid subjective thinking. This is an important one, and a lot of people make this mistake. Your writing must make sense to someone other than you. Okay, that seems really, really obvious, but it really is not. Yes, I had a student one time. I've had several over the years, but I had a student one time. I said, look, this makes no sense. It's like, that isn't saying anything, that isn't saying anything, that isn't saying anything. And he goes to me, yeah, it is, it's right there. And I'm like, no, it isn't, it's not right there. Yes, it is, it's right there. And I'm like, his name was David. And I said, all right, David, turn it in. And, he got a really, really low grade. He got over an E, but barely. And so, that's the exact type of thing. He thought it made sense, and he wasn't going to listen to anybody's suggestion that it didn't make sense, but I don't, whatever, fine. Want to turn your paper in like that, go ahead. And so, so that's the idea. You've got to make sure it makes sense. Listen to my suggestions, if I'm saying it doesn't. Okay, now look at this one. Check this out. Look at that. In a period civil war, rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil empire. Yeah, that's right. Space Cowboy. Okay, examples. Do not use commonplace examples. Let me see how much time I've spent. Oh, geez, well, this won't take that long. Do not use commonplace examples. They lower your score. Remember, TOK is a class about thinking on your own. So, what are commonplace examples? I will talk about commonplace examples, but I'm going to mention some right now. Do not use, listen, do you know what's going to happen if you use these examples? That's right. That's what's going to happen. Do not use heliocentric universe in Copernicus. No. That is the most commonplace example. Do not use, for instance, the Holocaust. Try to avoid the atom. Everybody wants to use the atom, the generation of the atom. Do not use evolution. Do not use flat Earth. Do not use. There's more. Those are some of them. Those are the main ones. Oh, you can mention Newton. Don't talk about the apple falling off Newton's head. No. 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 No apples falling on Newton's head. Why are these not good examples? I will tell you why they're not good examples. Could these examples be used well? Yes, they could. Do I see them occasionally used well? Yes, I do, occasionally. But what happens is people who are, I guess you could say, the lower level essays, the weaker essays, which I don't know about the people, I'm just talking about the essays, they use these examples in a very, very superficial way. They've heard them in class, they're not really paying attention, they're simple, and they just regurgitate them in very simplistic fashions. This is the problem with the examples. It doesn't mean the examples themselves couldn't be used, okay? But they're so commonplace and used so poorly all the time, just common, again and again and again and again and again in a very superficial way, that they become so commonplace. Now think about this for a second. What is TOK about? It's about trying to get you guys, the camera and the two lights, you guys who are watching this, you guys, that's right, I'm going to talk to you. It's trying to get you guys to think for yourselves. It's trying to get you guys to take the concepts that we learn in TOK and apply it to the world around you. Now, it's not regurgitate and parrot what the teacher says. No, it is not. It is not that class. It's about thinking for yourselves. And when you're simplistically using the most commonplace of examples, you're not thinking for yourself. All you're doing is word vomiting out some stuff which you haven't even really thought about. That's the problem with the examples. Could they be used well? Have I seen examples of the development of the atom that are really, really good? Yes. Have I seen examples of Copernicus and heliocentric universe that are good? Yes, I have. But I'm talking maybe 1 in 50, honestly. So just stay away from them. You can't find examples? Open your history book. You can't find examples? Open your science book. Just open it. There's examples everywhere. If you're questioning about an example, because obviously I know what's commonplace a lot more than you do since this is your paper doing it, ask me, is this a commonplace example? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. That's simple. That's straightforward. So just ask me. Okay? Use interesting examples. You can use personal examples. Okay? Personal examples. Find unique real life ones from the books or the media. Things that are going on. Okay? Referencing. Do not name drop. It impresses no one. Okay? You do not know. Now, I'm going to make this very, very clear. You do not have to have external referencing, external sources. If you use an external source, you have to have a reference, of course. But if you do not have to have external sources in your paper to do well. I've seen papers, excellent papers, that just kind of, are just very, very good about things. They talk maybe about personal examples or something like that. Okay, but most of the time that's not the case. Anytime you use something which is not commonplace knowledge, you need a source. Don't toss stuff in there. I had papers now. I had papers now that sometimes would have like 35 different citations and sources in them. Like everything they said, they want to throw it in. It doesn't do anything. You can't fit 35 sources into a 1,600 word paper. That's absurd. It's truly absurd. And so it doesn't. Don't just put if you need it. If you need the external example, like say you want to talk about something in history, like I don't know, something that happened during the Vietnam War. All right. Okay, sure, yes, please do. That's an external. Cite your sort of external source. You guys all know how to do that. But don't force stuff in because you think you need to force stuff in. Okay? You can use personal examples. You can, I'll talk about this later, but you can use the I form. I this, I think this, I think this. Perfectly okay, and as a matter of fact, it's kind of preferable in this paper. Okay? Be consistent in referencing. I don't care what referencing. IB doesn't care which referencing you use. You want to use MLA, use MLA. You want to use Oxford, use Oxford. You want to use Chicago, use Chicago. Whatever you want to use APA, use APA. Whatever you want to use it. But just keep the same. Okay? Include access dates on internet sources along with the entire web address. This is important. Access dates, because internet sites change all the time. And the entire thing. Don't just put CNN.com. No. Put the whole thing. Okay? Just copy and paste. General paper layout. Here's a general idea. This is not a Bible telling you how to do these things exactly. This is a general layout, a general idea. Your introduction, 150 to 200 words. We are going to have an introduction exercise. You will work on your introduction. You can even be up to around 250 if it's a good one and includes a lot of stuff. But that right around there. The body should be approximately 1,200 words, divided evenly between the different areas of knowledge and or ways of knowing. Okay? So 600 per section. And the conclusion around 150 to 200 words. The conclusion is not a summary. It is not a summary. A summary is something you have in a longer paper, which summarizes the main things because you may have forgotten what you read on page 1. Okay? Something cleaned over there. I have no idea what it is. But so this is not. Your so what statement, kind of. And because of this, just sum it up. Don't repeat what you said, you end up wasting words. This is a 1,600 word paper. It's not more, it's short. Many of you will have problems fitting everything you want to say into 1,600 words. This is really the problem. Yes, it is. Okay? And I think that was it. But I want to say one last thing before I finish up. And I get back to my poker game, see if those guys are... See if them guys is going to be a little more pleasant this time. But, the I form when you're writing. Now, generally in academia, we hate the I form. No I form, what's wrong with you? Spat! You've got your really mean teacher. What's wrong with you? So lad, boom! No lunch for you and no pudding, absolutely. But all right, and so but they don't like to get that I form out of there. What's wrong with you? Okay? Not really, I'm just joking around. But in this, you can have the I form. You can have the I form. It's okay. I disagree with the topic. I agree with the topic. I partially agree with the topic. It is okay. Use personal examples. I, me, we. That's fine. It is not the same type of paper as your extended essay or anything. So that's perfectly okay to use. You don't have to. You don't have to. And a lot of papers will do both. Like one paragraph they'll have the I form, then they'll go kind of more into the sort of general academic writing when you're talking about external examples. Okay. Oh, don't start your paper with why you picked the topic. Nobody cares. It's a waste of space. 1,600 words run out really quick. I picked this topic because it really made an emotional, significant emotional something to me. And no, who cares? Nobody wants to know. Nobody cares. It's irrelevant. Okay, there you go. And with that, I'm gonna get back to my poker game. That's right, y'all. You know what happens if you start talking nasty stuff again to me? That's right. You ain't gonna like it. I'll tell you that much. So, alright, pick up them chips. Pick them chips up. Hey, you guys want to see a card game? Not a card game, but I'm saying.